There's a myth that children are much better at learning languages than adults. And it can be difficult to learn a language in your 70s, 80s, 90s, but generally, younger adults, I think, have huge advantages that really, I think they outweigh the advantages of children. Children do have certain advantages. They are better at passive learning. So, children who are living in the environment, immersed in a language, are more likely to pick things up that they're just hearing. Adults tend to be, if they're hearing something, they're gonna. It still is very important for an adult to do this. I think it's one of the things adults should do more when learning a language. More of. They should listen in the background, like children. But children will pick up more. But that's because adults are focused on their thinking their own thoughts. We're we're better at tuning out the world. So it's actually your brain is being more efficient. It's also being your brain is being more efficient when it hears a sound and it goes, that sounds like the sound that I have from my language, so I'm just going to use that. It's actually more efficient. Actually, it actually makes it faster. But of course, that's not what we want. If we care about having a decent accent, we want to really learn the accent of the language. Um, which not everyone cares. Some people just want to I just want to be able to communicate fast. Actually the brain is very efficient at this, the adult brain. But the tricky thing there is that once an adult's brain has the sound, oh, I'm going to pronounce it that way, that worked. Now it's stuck that way in your head. So you start to lose the ability to hear the different sounds. I mean, you don't lose it completely, but you get used to the way that you're hearing it in your head, the way that you say it. And children don't have that. So it's easier for them to pick up an accent without effort when they're hearing it. But children are hearing the accent for thousands of hours before they even try to start speaking. And no, almost nobody's teaching that method because nobody wants to hear that they have to listen for thousands of hours before they start speaking. And that's, maybe going too far, but that is what children do, and that's part of why their accent is perfect. Um, but many children who grow up with parents who speak a language don't actually learn that language if they're living in a country that speaks a different language. They'll probably learn some, and their accent will probably be good, and their listening abilities. But they rarely, not rarely, but it's more rare than people realize that they actually reach fluency. I know a lot of Spanish speakers whose Spanish is not very fluent, even though their parents spoke Spanish at home, because they didn't actually go to school and have friends and watch movies and do all these other things. And school is a big thing. Children actually have to study their own language. I mean, children do. Pretty much everyone in the world now goes to school for many years and studies their own language. I mean, to study anything is to study your own language. You have to learn through your own language. And that's also another advantage that adults have. We've already learned the concepts of things. Now we just need to learn the language part. So a child has to learn a word, but not only the word, they have to learn what it is, and their brain has to process, oh, what is this new idea, or what is this new thing? In what context, what part of the world, how does it connect to everything? We already have all that. We already know. An advantage that adults have is that adults are much better students. Adults can sit down and study pretty much all day. Children can barely focus for a moment. Like basically school for children, especially younger children, is just trying to get them to learn to study. You're trying to get them used to the idea, oh, I can focus on something and learn it. And most adults in the modern day, well, I mean, many of us, if we actually went through the education process have mastered that ability. The ability to learn has to be learned, and adults have already learned it. So I'm telling you, I've taught kids English, and the ones who don't want to learn don't. When their parents just want them to learn, they learn, but it's very slow. It's very similar. It's a similar speed to teaching much older adults in their 70s, 80s. Very slow process. But adults who really want to learn really do. I mean, you can sit down and focus and study and memorize. You just have to find time. That's another advantage kids tend to have, is that their whole job is just to learn generally. We have other jobs, but a lot of us can make time and make a lot of progress. Another advantage that adults have is that adults have the ability to multitask. So there's all kinds of things that adults do during the day: cleaning, driving, working out. What else? There's all kinds of menial tasks that adults, we've been doing them for decades, so we don't actually have to think about them. Well, when a kid has to wash the dishes, they have to think, oh, here's the soap, and I gotta. They're learning the whole thing. Whereas, like, you've washed the dishes thousands and thousands of times. Like, you're just in your thoughts. So you can take so much of your day and have a language coming in. You already know how to drive. You don't have to think about driving. So there's the multitasking advantage is huge, especially for that passive intake, passive input, which a lot of people are not doing enough of, which it imitates the way children learn. A lot of people are really focused on speaking. This is another reason why a lot of people have trouble with the accent, is that even though they started learning, like for example, a lot of my clients started to learn English as children, but their teachers were not native speakers. So they were hearing English spoken with an accent. And then they were practicing with their peers in an accent and with, shoddy grammar or grammar based on their native language. But nowadays that's changing. I've met more young people who speak English with a really good accent who have never been there. And part of the reason is because of technology and culture. Nowadays, a lot of kids are growing up hearing native English in movies, in music, and they're really into the culture, and they're very inspired. They're interested. They have young minds who are focused on these sounds, and they get to their 20s and they're like, their accent is almost perfect. It's like, you never even lived in an English speaking country. And they're like, yeah, I didn't really learn much in school. Of course they learned some, but they didn't take on the bad habits, because most of what they were doing was passive input that they were interested in. So you have to find a way to really get into the culture like that, because we have this huge advantage now with technology. So what happens is, when someone has learned a word, even as a child, from a non-native speaker, like they're studying English and they hear the word pronounced wrong, or they're studying on their own and they come up with the sound in their head. This is becoming less true because, like I said, many people are learning through movies and music and such. But if they just are reading the word and they have their own idea of how it should sound, they come to me 20 years later. And I always use the word the as an example. Most of my clients struggle with the word the. Not because it's that hard to pronounce, but because they have said it a different way for 20 years or 10, 20 years. And so we have to work on that word every session for months and months and months. That's why I kind of consider myself a coach. If I were a teacher, I would just tell you, hey, it's pronounced the. Okay, bye bye. But I'm here helping you to focus on something that you already know, but that your brain doesn't want to let go of because it's very efficient. Adults are actually more efficient. The adult brain is very smart. Saying the or de or da or the, this has worked. People have understood you and it works. So the brain, it doesn't want to give that up. But if you want to avoid that when starting to learn a new language, you should listen a lot. So everyone will tell you nowadays you should speak and you'll learn a language in 3 months and buy my book. And it's fun to be able to speak quickly. You see results that get you motivated when you have your first interaction. But if having a decent accent is your priority, this is totally backwards. And you shouldn't feel ashamed for being shy to speak. It's actually natural and it's helpful. It's better. And all these language learning coaches will tell you, no, 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 fight. Don't be shy. Just speak. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's like, to a degree, but people are doing that way too much. And it's like, yeah, I'm not afraid to make mistakes over and over and over again for 20 years and then come to me and like, I know, but I keep saying it that way because I'm so used to saying it that way. Well, it's okay to not speak. If you're listening a lot, eventually you will speak when you feel like it, and you will pronounce the sounds and the grammar more more correctly if you do it that way. So that's what I recommend.